As the wind erodes and the water corrodes, altering everything we think we know, but we don't. It's all temporary, and it used to, but now the thought doesn't scare me or keep my feet from following one after another until I slumber. Then my mind, not my feet, wander and dream of people and places I'll never see again. I've mended as much mental anguish as I can, and now I try to use this language to take these thoughts from my head to my pen. Cause though I don't speak of my dead friends or the circumstances, often the blow never softens or yields. I'm in a desolate field, lonesome stargazing, night blazing, chasing traces of remembrance and reverence of relevant friends and acquaintances, and faceless and nameless names and faces. And while my mind is racing through these photo albums and quotations, all these people and places far from me, for only land and stars I see when I'm outside of the mile-high city, which is not my city, for I was born 1,000 miles northeast of there in the land of beer and lakes and pistol fire on MLK's birthday, where there is no minorities and segregation's mandatory. But that's a whole nother story altogether, and no matter the weather or hardships that any place brings, I'll still laugh when people shiver and say it's freezing, or say, hey, no, wait, I already had 18 mixed drinks, but I guess it's a Midwest thing, and I'm a mess from a dirty city and brought most of this filth I've gathered with me.
Welcome to another episode of Experience Any Weins Live. This week, we're going to be diving into your thoughts and how your thoughts and who you are two very different things. The statement, I think, often gets us into a lot of trouble. That's why we'll be covering the 6 most powerful sentence starters and what you can do to overcome some of those self-limiting beliefs that you might have. Coming up after the burst.
My work labors on as lovers sleep in each other's arms, remaining calm and collect. I begin my self-reflection process of redemption. Honestly, I don't know where this road leads, or if I'm even going. Could be rowing upstream, or worse, chasing my dreams to the peak, to finally be somebody doing something with what I have, rather than saying again and again that I can't and I won't anymore from this day forward. Cause Lord knows the past is set in stone, the present is yours to mold and to use for future uses. I know I'm a nuisance, I'm told, except neither young nor giant nor gnome. I don't sleep on these streets usually, though I've made thrones of my own. I don't sit well with idle hands, though don't know what to do when I'm home all alone. I'm a menace thrown from society, and as it lies to me, I'll smile silently as others do as they please. I am watching and listening, and I'm grinning all the while, 'cause sometimes all you can really do is smile. So as the work labors on, I'll keep on singing my songs, and this day's never done. We just keep on spinning around that sun, and well, through all these miles and trials, all I've learned to do is smile. Is to smile.
Welcome to another week of Experience Andy Weins Live. This is our opportunity every week to come together, share one idea, one thought. This whole adage of when two come together, one teaches and two learn. That's the whole goal here. Every week when I come out to do this show, forces me, puts me in a position to come up with a new idea of what we're going to cover this week, and that gets me excited, and I'm thankful for the audience joining me along the way. As always, I start off every show with a moment of gratitude. This week, I'm thankful for Lynn Karazi. Lynn Karazi is a gentleman I've known for a number of years, probably 6 years at this point. He's a fractional CFO, chief financial officer. His business is Clear Financial Outcomes, and that's what he delivers to his clients. We've known each other a number of years, and he approached me about 3 years ago and talked about writing a book together. And writing a book, he wanted to write a book. And then I wrote my book, came out about 2 years ago. And since then, he said, Andy, let's write a book together. So as of last week, we signed our contract. We are right in the throes of it. We wrote our outline, we wrote the back cover, and now we are starting next week writing my next book, his first book, and we're writing it together. And it's all about numbers and making data-driven decisions. So I'm very thankful because it takes a lot for people that know each other socially, through networking, passively through business, to make a choice to come together, put money, time, energy, effort on the line in order to produce something, especially of a creative nature where it's going to be a lot of work to get there, a lot of time put in. And I'm really excited to write this book with him. I'm excited to share my business knowledge of the financial data of your business and how small business owners can use that to leverage that information to create great businesses. So thankful for Lynn joining me on that journey. And I'm excited to write my next book. My first book has been an absolute joy to write. It's been a joy to talk about. It's been the base for everything I do here on Experience Any Wines Live. And I know the new book will also contribute to those thoughts, that thought leadership I have, and give me the opportunity to impact small business owners when it comes to their financials and allow them to grow their businesses, ideally way beyond their dreams and their desires they can see right now. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to have Lynn on my team. Second thing, I was talking about paying the bills. Why do I do this? I do this. I love doing keynote speaking. I love doing workshops. I was fortunate to join BMO Harris last week at a roundtable discussion. And I was able to present a 25-minute version of the language of leaders. And so that's what I do. I work with business owners, sit with them in conference room and talk about the power of language, the way that leaders speak, and how that is all trainable and coachable. So for small businesses, large businesses, everything in between, we all have leaders in our organization. We all use vocabulary and language to drive our thoughts. Those thoughts drive our leadership styles to influence people. What are those right words? What is the language that leaders use? And so for people out there that have businesses, they want to empower their people, this is a great opportunity for me to come out to anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes to empower the leaders within your organization to take your organization where you want to see it to go. The whole key behind that is to no longer be the victim of your circumstance and to be the victor of your story. And that's what leaders do. All right, let's talk about what we're going to talk about this week. I talked about the 6 most powerful sentences, and I developed this about 3 or 4 months ago. And since then, I've really honed in on it. And now I'm even started training my ear to listen to these sentences. I am, I can, I feel, I know, I want, I will. And as I listen to people when they start these sentences, I believe everything they say after they start those sentences with those 2 words. It's when people start sentences with you, I'm automatically kind of turned off. You make me feel this. You did this to me. You are the reason. You are at fault. This is what you did. Eliminate the you. The other challenge I see is when people say I, and it's followed up with a less active word, a less informed word. And often that word is I think. People say, I think XYZ. And all of a sudden I'm hearing limiting self-beliefs. I'm hearing assumptions. I'm hearing not a data-driven decision. Talking about my new book being based off of data. Or you go to the doctor, what happens? You go in and they get your vitals. Now they know they came upon a place of knowledge versus, well, I think this is what you're suffering from. No, let's get the data behind it. So within your financials, within your business. Well, I think we're doing well. Well, what does your numbers say? And yet that's what people start sentences with. Well, I thought he said that, or I thought he meant this. I think that's what she wants. Well, I thought this about that thing. Well, what do you know? That's the power here. The challenge with I think is a lot of your thoughts can be coming from a place of scarcity. They can be coming from that fear-based place in your brain. And all of a sudden you're conjuring up what you thought. So something I've been recently faced with somebody in my life is they're projecting their limiting beliefs on me. Well, I thought you felt this way. Oh no, did you ask me? Right? What did you do to obtain an information? I've also been working with somebody in my life who's been she's right in the middle of it, right in the thick of it. She's going through some stuff. And we had a wonderful conversation earlier today. And one of the challenges she said is, I thought this is what the other person wanted. And I think this is what I want. And yet, once she started to separate herself, I am, from I think, from those thoughts, and she starts to look at her own life and the decisions she made previously and her thoughts now, she steps back and says, hold on, is that consistent with who I am? Is that thought consistent with how I feel? And all of a sudden, looking back, looking at herself, she's like, oh, why am I thinking this way? What knowledge got me here today? And all too often, she was having self limiting beliefs coming from that wounded inner child, coming from a place of scarcity. So she knows better. She's much more successful than she's acting because she's letting these toxic thoughts creep in. And often these thoughts are somebody else's thoughts. This is the way somebody else thinks about you, something they said about you. On all of those people, they really don't know you. They think they know you. They know parts and pieces of you. They really don't know you. Instead of owning who you are, you're taking this information from other places and you're starting to own it as it's your own. And so she's taken this upon herself to say, okay, hold on, this thought, is it valid? Is it rooted in truth? What is the truth within this thought? Question that. Next, where is this coming from? If in fact it is factually correct, where is it coming from? Who is the source? Before you say, I think, well, I know. What can you do to know the information is true? What do you know to what how do you determine that you know what you're talking about? Well, what is the data? And is it coming? What is the data? Is it factually correct? And is it coming from you? Third thing, do I agree with it? Is it consistent with where I'm going in the world, right? Or is it in the past? We were talking earlier today, and she was faced with a decision. And as she was talking about the two decisions, this very clear fork in the road. To me, as the third party, it was very obvious what the right choice is. And certainly I'm not going to tell her the right choice because who the hell am I? What do I know? Based on what she told me was obvious. And she's talking about these two choices. She's like, well, obviously, this is the right choice. She says this out loud. And yet she's struggling with that choice when she can say, obviously, it's the right choice. And I said, it's funny. I was about to ask you that question. You answered the question. And she goes, what was the question? I said, the two choices you're faced with. One leans into your past. One leans into your future. She goes, wow, I never thought about it that way. Yeah. So you have a very obvious choice here. Which one is consistent with where you're going versus where you came from? Often we make decisions based on where we came from. And that sounds something like, well, this is the way it's always been done, or I was raised this way. Well, this is what my parents taught me. And it's like, well, does that continue to serve you? I know I was dating a woman for a number of years and I would say things or do things. And she said, where is that coming from? Like, well, I was raised that way. And she said, okay, that's, you owned it or you got it from your mother or your father. Do you still feel that way? And for some things, I'm like, absolutely. I'll double down. And other things like, as I started to dig into it, I was like, huh, where does that come from? And does that continue to serve me to this day? And when I investigated those moments, I started to paint the picture of who I am. The Four Agreements, the book talks about the domestication of man. The preachers, the teachers, the leaders that you grow up with, put a lot of these thoughts into your head. They're not natural and normal for you from the day you're born. They're put into you, and then over time, you own them. When reflecting now, you have that opportunity to say, okay, is this still consistent with who I am and how I operate? Or is this inconsistent with that? So, for example, my parents growing up, we weren't very close from a loving standpoint in our family. There was always food on the table. There was always, a roof over our heads. We made it to church and we did the family things. We weren't an overly loving family, an affectionate family, for example. And then when I became a father, I knew that cuddling on the couch and watching movies together and reading books, that was important to me. So even though I wasn't raised that way, I knew that was important to me. So I could take what I learned from others and how I grew up, and I can still choose to say, okay, I know this is who I am. Going back to the six most powerful statements, I want this. So I can say, I know I wasn't raised this way, right? And this is what I want in my own life. Such a simple adjustment. And there's other aspects with when it came to the way I was raised, where absolutely That's the way I was raised. I agree with it. And now I own it. I no longer use this excuse of, oh, I thought this is the way everybody did it, or this is the way I was raised. No, I will do that. So one of the things I'm very proud of on our family that we were raised on is apologies. Sorry was never used in our house. Never. It wasn't until I was in grade school and then high school I heard other people apologizing. I got into corporate America. I heard people apologizing. I go, what is this shit all about? And I had a conversation with my mom years ago. She goes, sorry? Yeah, we don't, that's not what we do here. We never did that in our family. Apologies were wasted words in our household. So I thought, okay, we never acknowledge, right, or take that time to forgive. So what do we in fact do? And what's a better way of doing things? It's like, oh, show gratitude. Okay. So now again, 6 most powerful sentences. I will show gratitude instead of asking for forgiveness. It's like, okay, now I made an adjustment because I know when I focus on gratitude, I'm focused on the future. I know when I'm focused on gratitude, I'm vulnerable with the other person. I also know that for me, apologies make up for piss poor behavior and they feel good at the time. And more often than not, the person that's apologizing will continue to repeat that pattern of behavior. So instead, it's a thank you expressing gratitude. It goes back to what do you know? What serves you? And it fits in the 3 R's: the reflection, looking back at your situations, what was true in it, realizing in real time who you are, and then regulation, where am I going? So when I have this fork on the road, the decision is much more clear and obvious because I've oriented myself to where I'm going based on what I want, what I know, and then what I will do becomes very obvious. When I talk about those 6 most powerful sentences, I wrote them in alphabetical order to start with as a way for me to remember them. And then as I continue to look at them, I have them on my board right here. I go, ooh, I like them. I like them in alphabetical order. There's a linear aspect to them. I am. Declare who you are. There's 8 billion yous on this planet. Who are you? What makes you so unique? What is it that you bring to this table? That superpower that only you have. I am. Declare it to the world. I can. What are you capable of doing? Actually able to do. I feel. What are your thoughts behind that? What is the emotion? Express the emotion in words. I know. I'll go out and find the data to know where I'm coming from. I want, based on what I can do, based on what I want, or based on how I feel, this is what I want. And finally, I will. What commitments am I willing to make? Because when you start sentences with I think this and I think that, you're talking in circles. When you start articulating what you know, where is it coming from? Is it valid? Who is the one that said it? Do I still own it today? You practice those 3 steps to reflect, to realize, and to regulate. And all of a sudden, that complicated life becomes a lot more simple. And it comes down to, as I'm looking at the notes from the person as we were chatting earlier today, she sent me the notes. Finally, what can I do about it? With the 6 most powerful sentences, I will. That's your commitment to yourself. That's the affirmation. That's the action that'll allow you to go obtain new information as you take on this journey that is life. Versus saying, I think or I thought, and you stay ignorant, full of assumptions the rest of your life. And it is complicated, and it can be tricky, and it's awkward at times to speak in such language. It's very vulnerable, it's very transparent with others, and it's empowering. Moreover, it's encouraging. 80% of Americans live somewhere between anger and fear. 20% of people live a life of courage. And even for me, I'm starting to adjust my language. So I say encouraging people more than empowering them. You have the power within you. There's no doubt about it. My opportunity is to bring out the courage in you. You got to ember, a little bit of a flame. I want to encourage you to use the courage to put a little bit of gasoline on that fire, to make those commitment statements of I will versus I think or I thought, I assume. And once you start saying I will, your feet will follow. It's the manifestation of the dream that is your life. And so my challenge for you this week is very simple. Take the time, reflect, realize, regulate the 3 R's to success. Do that fucking thing. Tell the fucking world. Tell the people what you want. Tell them what you're willing to do to get what you want. And then in those moments when you need yourself the most, what are you willing to do? What is the right decision in front of you? And how are you going to achieve greatness? What are you going to do different today that you didn't do yesterday to get where you're going tomorrow that you haven't been there yet today? Show the fuck up. Show up for yourself above anybody else. Do that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week.
Through all these miles and trials, all I've learned to do is smile. Is to smile.